everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the End the Wait Forum. My name is Charlotte Allen Park. I am a Hospital Development Program Manager here at LifeCenter Northwest, and today I am pleased to kick off our final forum for 2023. And during today's forum, we're going to bring it all together. We will take all the knowledge and insights that we've gathered so far about the donation process from previous forums, and we're going to share some best practices to optimize all donation opportunities and how we can all work together to honor all donation decisions to save lives in our community. So we are happy to have each and every one of you here today. We have some really great content that'll be valuable to you all as you continue to enhance and also evaluate your hospital's donation program in the upcoming year. So before we get started today, I do want to stop for a moment and always want to ground ourselves to remember why we do the work that we do. In this moment, we honor the incredible generosity of our donors who are at the heart of it all. If it were not for their rare and remarkable gift of life, and if it were not for their families honoring their final wishes of their loved ones, we would not be able to partner with any of the hospitals in our donor service area in our region to save lives through organ donation. So with that, I will quickly share our planned agenda for today. So first, we will highlight the why and address the critical need for organ donation and give an overview to our End the Wait campaign. Following, we will have a very, very, very special guest speaker joining us today to help connect purpose. If you haven't seen him perfectly coiffed today, our speaker is Patrick Holland. He is a heart recipient who received the gift of life back in the spring of 2023. And Patrick's inspiring journey to become an organ recipient received national attention in late 2022. And he will share more of his incredible story shortly with us. So after hearing from Patrick, we will shift focus and we will hear from our LifeCenter clinical staff on how hospitals can help to optimize each and every donation opportunity through donor preparedness and also through planned, timely family conversations. And here we'll have some interactive polls about the donation process, so we'll make sure that you guys are still awake. And next, we will have a moment to hear from you. So if you guys have any questions, we'll have just a brief moment to open up some discussion with our team, especially our clinical team, about today's learnings. And finally, we'll touch upon next steps that hospitals should consider following this forum. So now to discuss the critical need for organ donation, I open the floor to our president and CEO of LifeCenter Northwest, Santok Gill. Santok.
Charlotte, it's great to be here, and thank you so much for making the time to be part of the End the Wait campaign. So I'll talk about the critical need for donation, and we have a lot of great news to share with you. We started on a campaign this year and going into next year to save more lives and support more families than ever before, and I have some exciting updates related to that. We know that we work against the clock, that patients are waiting on the organ transplant waiting list. And so we are really focused and driven to try to make and save as many lives as possible. Next slide. Some just basic stats that I know all of you know. There are more than 100,000 people on the national transplant waiting list, and each day 17 people die while waiting on the wait list. Next slide. Just some statistics about Washington State. There are currently 1,492 people on the waiting list. There have been 932 additions this year. 795 people have received a deceased or living donor transplant. And then finally, 64 people have died while on the wait list. And our 5 transplant programs typically list recipients for Alaska, Washington, Montana, and Northern Idaho, our service area. But we have some really incredible news about what we've been able to accomplish together. And without all of our donor hospitals, none of this is possible, because without our donors, none of this is possible. But year to date, through November, we've saved 1,080 lives. We are on pace to save more than 1,200 lives this year, the most ever in the history of LifeCenter. And you can see the kind of improvement that we've seen compared to last year, where during that same time period, we had saved 805 lives. And it again is the incredible collaboration and partnership with our donor hospitals and our transplant programs that makes this possible. Next slide. We're also incredibly proud that this year we've been able to support 502 families. And you know that we meet those families in the most tragic time. And we support them through their grief and their journey with their loss of their loved one. And we support them long after that uh, uh, point of making that decision happen. We support them many years after their decision to donate and support donation. And so we're very proud of our aftercare program, and it's one of the greatest things that we can provide to families. And hopefully they get some solace from their grief, knowing that the legacy of their loved one lives on in others. And we're very proud of our ability to support families during this very difficult time. Finally, as we've talked about, it really is an ecosystem, and it takes each component of that system in order to make donation happen. And it's really our donor hospitals, our transplant centers, and the organ procurement organization. And really getting and working together collaboratively and getting better and better at working together is really how we can make our mission come to life and save more lives through organ and tissue donation. So thank you, Charlotte, for letting me share that.
Great. Well, it looks like we're ready to have our Connect to Purpose speaker up next. So, Patrick, I invite you to share your experience with all of our hospital partners here on the call. So, set the scene for us. What was it like for you before being placed on the transplant list?
Man, so I'm going to read off a script here, but I can go on forever but I don't have the time. So I'll describe my life before this. It was before I realized how bad my heart problem was. I would run 5 miles 5 days a week with my track coach, not noticing too many problems in my body, but being very winded yeah. So at 22, I tried to join the Marines and was denied because they said my heart numbers didn't look good enough, even though I did everything that they required, even though I completed the test. Shortly after that, I had complications and a mild heart attack. I lived in denial and just quit track in college. I focused on work and family at the age of 29. I had a massive heart attack. I had heart surgery. They told me I should be on medication for life. I ignored the symptoms of my heart disease because I didn't want to face the possible early death like my father and my uncle, who both passed around the age of 48. Sorry. I moved to Alaska in my early 30s, where the heart disease finally caught up to me at age 39. And I've had like a lot of heart attacks in between. I was sent to the hospital with cardiomyopathy, you know what I'm talking about, cardiomyopathy and AFib and BTAC, causing my blockages in my main arteries and blood clots in my left ventricle of my heart. They told me I wasn't leaving without a pacemaker and defibrillator. These were the events that set my heart on a path to needing a transplant, and they were also scary. And I also had a 6 bypass and stents and ablations and all kinds of stuff. With each heart attack, I would lose some physical capabilities that I was able to do before, as well as heart function. And I now was on a ton of medications, not thinking I was going to make it to C50. I could no longer chase my kids around the park, especially my 4-year-old, without going into VTAC or AFib, or even I couldn't even run around my kitchen island to chase my 4-year-old. One time I kept going because I wanted to, and I woke up in the hospital being shocked. So luckily I had the technology in my chest to keep me going, keep me alive. After living with severe heart disease for 17 years, well, it's actually the severe part was 17 years. My heart could no longer supply the blood to my body needed to function. It had gotten so bad that I could no longer eat regular food. So I was referred to the transplant team at UW, where they said I really needed the transplant, which I kind of knew. Number 2 question was, choose a moment in your illness truly impaired and impacted your life. There came a time as a service provider, caregiver, working with seniors with disabilities and dementia, where I could no longer take care of them, picking them out of their wheelchair, giving them showers, because my severe disability had taken another part of my life away, my job. My wife and children were always supportive, but worried about what part of my life I would lose next, or just losing my life. It became where I could no longer pull the cord on my lawnmower or a weed whacker without having to ask my kids or my wife come down and do it for me, which was humiliating for me for being a man. Because I had to watch my dad do it too, so. Sorry. My family and I were very scared together about the possibilities of failure. And excited about the possibilities of success. I would always wonder what it would be like to have my life back after losing so much. My friends could no longer ask me to come help them with their housework or work on a car. My family had to take on the chores that I always did, such as running the snowblower and mowing the lawn. Even taking out the trash became a chore. After receiving the call for transplant, I was honestly terrified. I mean, really scared. I also knew that receiving a new heart could change my life. So I never gave up faith and never gave up hope. But I would always accept the possibility of it not happening because there are so few donors. We did a lot of research in finding out that there weren't many donors or donations for people needing transplants of any kind, so things always kind of looked depressing. But as a believer, I never quit having faith, and my faith was, I know where I'm going. After they had finally told me that I had made the list, I cried. After calming down, I called my wife and told her the good news, but it was also scary because they said, excuse me, that it could be 8 months to a year before I could receive a matching heart, and I was scared. I didn't have that long. I should probably have a tissue. Well, I'm sorry. Thank you to everyone who has signed up to be an organ donor. Okay, this is another part of where it's just the biggest part for me too is everyone involved that gave me this life back. You may not see it from this point of view, but everybody down to the receptionist that greeted me, to the doctors that did the surgery, to everybody in the lab, the cath lab. I mean, they were all amazing. And I truly believe that everybody wanted me to live. There was that stigma that we all have, or a lot of people have, is they just want the other parts. But I never felt that way. I felt that everybody around me, and I've met hundreds of them, I felt they all wanted me to survive, to have this day. And to have this, my 4-year-old around for 45 minutes playing games, having them at the park, not now because it's frozen, but to be able to be the dad chasing them instead of sitting on the slide growling is what I'm used to doing. Catching him, catching my 12-year-old who's in track. I'm doing 5 miles on the treadmill. You guys gave me this, so that's pretty good. It's to be able to help move snow for my neighbors now. It's incredible. It's not only did I spend 2 hours on moving snow for me, I did Eddie's house, who's a war veteran. He's I think he's 72. And man, and then I hopped on over this neighbor I don't even know, and I did his yard because I know he's a senior and he's living alone. Tomorrow I'm going to be chopping wood for somebody. I couldn't chop wood before. It's this is incredible. I mean, to have this new life with him, and we like each other. So you guys do amazing work. I mean, just amazing for the life that you can give someone like me, and my family and lots of families. It's sorry. It's dusty in here. Grateful and thankful, and I mean, there's just not enough words in the dictionary to explain what you do for lives, the lives that you save, the work that you do. It's incredible. It's you've got skills, and you're giving life to many people. And like I say, you don't just save me and my family, you save a lot of lives. And I want to thank you. I don't know what else to say.
No, Patrick, you said a lot. This is amazing. I think, the one thing about your story, you talk about having so much faith that, I know where I'm going and this is going to happen. But the part of your story that always kind of gives me the little goose pimples, the chicken skin, is about, just about what happened, how chaotic it was and how crazy it was once you received that call. I mean, we had an unprecedented ice storm here in Seattle. So it was like, moving mountains to get you here. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you felt and how kind of the community here in the Seattle area came out to support you?
Yeah, so after trying to get in the airport, our airport's a little tiny airport, not like Seattle's. Ours, you can throw a rock from one side to the other, but it was crowded. I've never seen it that crowded, and they were canceling flights left and right. And I told them, I said, hey, I have to get on a plane. Get me on a cargo plane. Get me on whatever you want. And they got me on a plane. And about 4 hours into the flight, they said, welcome to Anchorage. I'm thinking, now this guy must be tired. It's 3, 4 in the morning. We can't be in Anchorage. Anchorage is 25-minute flight. And the lady heard me that was next to us and said, no, her GPS says that we're in Anchorage. And I started to panic. I thought, oh my God, they got me on the wrong plane. Oh, well, I was visibly freaking out until the stewardess told me that Seattle was having the worst ice storm they've ever had in 20 plus years. And we got turned away and ended up at Anchorage, which was also having a blizzard. And I'm looking out the window thinking, oh, this is scary. And Joanna, the heart transplant coordinator, told me that, don't worry, Patrick, get on the next flight. This heart's yours. So after being completely devastated, I was back up again. I'm like, yeah. Okay, so Roy with Alaska Airlines got me on another flight, and we're all boarded, and I'm looking out the window, and you could feel the plane just doing this, and you could see the windows flexing. And I thought, wow, they're going to really fly in this? That's okay. I'm going to heart transplant. It's I'm willing to take the risk. But then after we all boarded, we heard the call on the intercom saying everybody has to unboard, and I was devastated again. And I called, I think it was Thomas that was who had switched coordinators, and he said, we still got time, get on the next flight. So it was the third flight got canceled, the fourth flight got canceled, and that's when I knew I was going to hear the news. I told my brother, who was with me at the time, I said, it's not going to be good news. And they said that they were going to move forward, giving the heart to somebody else. So I was crushed, but I was happy that somebody else got to see their father or son, and someone else got to enjoy life. So, yeah. So I flew back, and immediately CNN and ABC and everybody read my wife's blog, and they wanted to do a story on me. At first I said no, and then I realized I could use this as a podium to talk about being a donor and taking care of seniors. But ABC and NBC, and I have had hundreds and hundreds of people from Seattle reach out to me and saying, hey, we live here and we have a car. And I'm like, I just don't need any of that. I just need someone to call the ambulance when stuff goes south. And a nice couple reached out to me. They work from home, And they said, we live 4 minutes from UW. I'm like, I'm on my way. So I immediately got there, and there was so like on the second heart transplant, they called me and they said, hey, we have this one available. Let's go. We got 45 minutes. And I started to drive there, and then he called me, and I could hear it in his voice. And he just said, this heart had blood clots. And I was devastated again. I was shattered again, and went back to their house and just took care of some things and was able to help a few people with small stuff. You know, I was hunting down seniors to help. It's like, what can I do? I can do this slowly. Or I got the third call, and I was super excited. They said, hey, this guy's passed all the tests but one, but we want you to just be calm and wait. And I did. And then I got the phone call saying, this heart had a disease, and they just didn't tell me anything. So I was crushed again. And the fourth one, they called me, and I got to the hospital, and he said it wasn't compatible for whatever reason. And then they went on to explain to me what they look for and what determines it's usable, if it's usable. And then I got the fifth call, and this time I felt, I just don't know. So, but when the doctor came in smiling, then the terrifying hit me, like, oh my gosh, this one's a go. And he looked at me and he said, Patrick, I got you, and I'll see you when you wake up. And I felt such a comfort from the doctor, because they're very engaging, and they're very just nice. I mean, it's like, man, they're like your best friend. And Dr. Fishbone, I call him Fishbone because it's German, but he was so amazing. And Dr. Marr and Dr. Thomas and Dr. April. I mean, I could just sit here and name hundreds of doctors I wish I was there to do things for, because it's just incredible to have this new life. And when I got the fifth one, here I am. It's I'm taking care of people and having fun with my kids like I've never had before. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember ever feeling this good. And even though I can eat whatever I want, I choose to eat really healthy. Chicken and egg whites and lots of vegetables, and making my own dressing. So this is just, I can't, like I said, there's not enough words to tell everybody that I'm grateful to the donors, and I'm super grateful to the doctors and nurses that do this, all the people involved, the transplant house, you guys. I mean, just everybody. I mean, everybody that gave me life or giving somebody life. This is what you're doing. This is the kind of thing that you make happen for people, and for every part that you participate in is amazing. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Patrick. Gosh, I feel like I'm like, whoa, yeah. Sorry, you're just so inspiring. Like, we're just so grateful to have you here today and just taking time out, even though you're getting ready to go off and go do something else amazing and run around today. But just thank you so much for taking time to share your powerful story with us today. And we don't often get to hear from recipients, but this is great. So we really appreciate having you today. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and letting me share my story and how good it feels to have so many people that work hard to save lives. I mean, it's I'm never smart enough to be that kind of doctor or anything, or nurse or anything, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next segment. So I would like to introduce Kara Demchev. She is an organ recovery coordinator here with LifeCenter Northwest to chat about optimizing donation opportunities. So Kara and I will kind of chat through, actually Kara will chat through the clinical pieces of the donation process, and we'll also have accompanying poll questions as well. So let's kick off the first poll question. I hope.
Yep,
see
working
here.
on it right now.
Okay, just
launching
kidding.
it as we speak.
Awesome. Okay, so the first question is here. So it says the donation agency must be allowed to evaluate patients before comfort care measures are initiated and terminal extubation occurs. Which of the following explain why? So A, donation opportunities will be lost due to the lack of perfusion to the organs. B, donation is the last step along the continuum of care that is possible, I can't even talk today. Continuum of care for those that is possible for. C, every patient or family should know their donation opportunities and be given the chance to make their own donation decisions. Or is it everything, A, B, and C? So go ahead and select your answer now. Okay. Hopefully you guys
I
are on
got
to the
that.
second. Yeah.
Yeah. Are we moving on to the second question, Charlie?
I think we should be moving on to the next slide. To go ahead and let Kara. Yep.
Okay.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm here to talk about the donation process, kind of from referral all the way through to the OR, just kind of broad strokes of that. And first off, we just want to talk about donation communication with LifeCenter. When there's an active referral that is at your hospital, you should expect that we'll check in daily with you, either by phone or on site. And we will communicate that plan with you either over the phone or when we are on site. And when we're on site, we are wanting to talk to the physician and the healthcare team that is taking care of that potential donor to make a plan to preserve the option for donation, which is ensuring oxygenation and perfusion, and then to not extubate prior to our evaluation and talking to the family. The things that we would like for you to do, if we are not catching these changes while we're on site or with our phone calls, is to notify us if a patient becomes DNR, if they have a neuro decline or they become really unstable, if there's an anticipated end of life conversation, goals of care conversations, brain death testing, if there's going to be a transfer up to a bigger hospital, or someone brings up organ donation to you, or if it's brought up by someone else. Next slide.
Okay, so hopefully we can figure out this polling, you guys. So if you weren't sure for the last question, our answer was A, B, and C. So if you selected any one of those answers, you would all be right. So hopefully you selected those. Hopefully, I think we should probably go ahead and just do all of the poll questions and then we'll catch those at the end, Reese. If that's okay. Yeah, okay.
Yep, that's fine. Okay. And Charla, I believe it's on everyone. The way it kind of goes through to just kind of mouse through on the questions, there's arrow buttons.
Yes.
So just kind of to provide those answers, and then yeah, we can kind of go over the results at the end there.
Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and finish up the poll if you guys haven't had a chance to. Sorry that we moved forward so quickly.
Is the poll question going, or am I supposed to be? Sorry, guys.
I think it was supposed to be the poll that's supposed to come up.
Okay.
Or should we just keep going?
I'm going to just keep going. I didn't see a poll question come up.
That's okay. That's fine. Go ahead, Kara.
All right.
You're amazing. Thank you.
So after you've when a donor or a potential donor comes in and you've the clinical triggers have been met and you call StatLine or LifeCenter to make that referral, you'll get an initial referral call from our coordinators. And that call will hopefully be short, and it will be directed towards the nurses taking care of that patient. We want, if our coordinators have access to a lot of EMRs remotely. However, that doesn't always happen at some of the smaller hospitals. So some of the questions will vary, will become more in depth if we don't have that access. But things to expect are, what are the brainstem reflexes, cough, corneal gag? Are they overbreathing the vent? What are they doing to pain? Are they on sedation? Are they on vasopressors, and how many and how much of each? And then what are the vital signs, hemodynamics of that patient? And then pulmonary function, what's the vent settings? What are they what's their O2 sats? Has the hospital done an SBT, and what was the result of that SBT? We also will be looking for some quick labs, mostly renal function and possibly liver function. What are the BUN, creatinine, AST, ALT? Along with that, we'll want to know what is the urine output, and then are they on CRRT or not? And then a quick snapshot of their significant past medical history, especially something like active cancer, which can rule that donor out potential donor out pretty quickly, hypertension, diabetes, etc. And then we'll also be wanting to know what the plan is for the day. Are they going for MRI to get some more neuroprognostication, things like that? And then what are the family dynamics? Are they making any decisions? And what is their code status? Next slide, please. And then when we do that initial referral, we'll then send someone on site to dig into that chart and have in-person conversations. And if that donor or that potential donor is deemed suitable for organ transplants, we will then have a conversation with the family if those triggers have been met, which would be they've consented to donation, brain death testing has happened, the healthcare team is on board with us talking to the family. So after that, we will do a case start. And this is a very busy time for the nurse that is taking care of this donor. And usually we have them one-to-one because of the high acuity of all the tasks that need to be done. One of the first steps is to send out blood, which we send to our labs. And this is to get tissue typing, serologies, ABO, and then COVID testing done. And these are all send outs. And then we also will be contacting the medical examiner on all cases. Even if it's not a reportable death, we do contact that medical examiner or coroner. We do physical assessments, looking for diseases that may not be found in our chart review, and that corroborate what the family is telling us, any risk behaviors. And then we will write, if the organ donor is brain dead, we take over care and write orders, which will be a lot of diagnostics, serial labs, and vasopressors for and vent orders. And then if it's a donation after circulatory death, we will actually request that the care team put in orders for us, which will be a little bit less intense than the brain death orders. Next slide. And then once we have all the information that we need to create information for the transplant list, and we have found recipients, we will then plan for the OR. And this looks more complicated, or this is more complicated and challenging than it may seem. There's a lot of factors. Transplant centers have specific recipient constraints. They might need additional tests. The family may have needs and require a certain time or day. Your OR may be booked, the ICU may be having staff, there's so many components to this. And then to top it off, we may have donor stability issues. So we try and prioritize as best we can and come to a compromise and pick the best OR time that suits the most people. And that is my last slide, I think.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kara. So appreciate all of your knowledge that you shared with everyone today. And we'll move on to our next segment and talk about timely family conversations and support. Our goal here, of course, is just to provide you guys insight on what we do, our best practices. And I would like to introduce Nettie Jensen, Family Support Training Program Manager, to talk about our approach to family conversations. Nettie.
Hi, welcome. Good to be here with all of you. I have to say that I had the ability to be on a case at a very small hospital in Bonner County, actually with Kara, several years ago. And so it is possible for you all to support a donor. I just wanted to put that out first and foremost. But I just wanted to talk about our kind of our philosophy and our approach to family conversations. So we put a lot of thought, our department, into how to be present for these families. And I think that's the biggest part of this this job of ours, is to be able to be ourselves in the best place possible emotionally, and regulating ourselves so that we can provide information to the family the best way possible. We really lead with empathy. That's something that's really important for us. And our goal is really to be present with this family and help them really feel heard and understood. If a family doesn't know or doesn't think that you're genuine with the information you're sharing, we're not going to get anywhere with them. Again, staying emotionally regulated. If we go into these hard conversations and we're in a heightened state, that's not going to do anything for this family to bring the family to a place where they can have a good conversation about donation. We really believe in asking a lot of open-ended questions. That's one of the things that really helps a family feel heard and understood. A lot of times people aren't able to be at the bedside with them and just sit and spend a lot of time. And so for us to be able to sit and say, this has been a lot for you, how are you holding up? That's a way for the family to just kind of decompress and be able to say, this person really hears me and really wants to be with me. And then really, we do all of this so that we can really engage with the family in a way to help them access their values and beliefs at this really difficult time, so that they can possibly come to the decision that they can find some comfort in donation in the end. So thinking about when we talk about the family, Kara just did a good job of mapping out the process for you all. But typically we want to talk to a family when we believe that they're ready to have the information about donation. So we want to talk to them prior to end of life decisions being made. So what that looks like is possibly during brain death declaration. So when there's been a plan to start brain death testing, or when one of the first brain death exam happens, that's a really good time for us to have a conversation with the family. What I found is speaking to them prior to that testing is often a little bit better on the family support side, because the family has an understanding. They've been told by the providers that they think that their loved one is most likely brain dead. So they're in a place where they understand that. But oftentimes what happens is when families hear that news of brain death being declared, it puts them back into this very highly emotional state. And it's hard to go in after that or during that time to have a good conversation. So a lot of times when they're waiting for that brain death testing to happen is a really good time for us to speak to the family. When a family has made the decision to move to comfort care, is also a time that we speak to the family. So we want to make sure that they understand what's going on. That's one of the first questions we ask them, is tell us what's happening with your loved ones. So when they've made that decision to move to comfort care, that's also a time for us to share the information about donation. Or when a family talks about donation, when a family brings it up. So what we know is that a family, if a family brings donation up, they've had some sort of thoughts in their mind about it. And so it's always good, even though it may not feel like the right time for the team at the hospital, it's always good for us to go in and say, this might not be the right time to have a full conversation, but we know you did bring up the topic of organ donation, and I would love you to just let me tell you a little bit, or do you have, what questions do you have? So giving them that opportunity to either ask the questions or for us to talk to them a little bit about what that means for their loved one. So this is what we call our arc of family understanding. So as you can see at the very left, the family's been given grave prognosis, and then they make a decision either to withdraw life support or de-escalate care. And then there's that time where they withdraw life support and then the family is ready to go home. So what we like to do is really speak to them in that time prior to withdrawing life support. Because what we found is that sometimes talking to them too late makes it a little bit, makes timing a concern for the family. So our goal is to really hit them in that time where they understand what's happening, but that the process of withdrawing life support and actually moving to comfort care and de-escalating care hasn't happened yet. So we really do our best to meet them at that time where we feel like they have a good understanding, but maybe they haven't yet said this is the time to withdraw care. So right there, you can see that's the window where we would have a CFC. Oh yeah, sorry, Reese. I couldn't remember if this slide was automated or not. So when we're thinking about family readiness, we really lean to the people at the bedside to really help us determine if a family is starting to understand end of life. So as the people in the room, you're our eyes and ears. I always say, you guys, we can't do this job without you. You are essential to us. So oftentimes, families are saying things when they're on the phone to their loved one. They wouldn't want to live on a ventilator. I can't see them like this anymore. They're starting to refer to their loved one in the past tense. So there we go. He was a good person, or telling people when they come to visit, there's nothing else that can be done. So family is starting to say things like that. Family could be asking you questions like, what happens next? Having those hypotheticals, what happens if we stop the machines? Asking chaplaincy and spiritual care to come in. So they're asking for blessings, maybe last rites, or they're asking for funeral home resources. That's another good clue to us that they're starting to think that this is an end of life situation. And what family's doing, so family's making those phone calls and saying, you need to come say goodbye. So you have people traveling in from out of the state or out of the city coming in to say goodbye. Doing something simple as changing a code to a DNR status, that just gives us that idea that the family is really starting to understand that this is an end of life situation. Or they're actually calling funeral homes and making other end of life arrangements. So just thinking about our family conversation, like I said, first off, we don't go into this lightly. This is something that's very methodical and very thought out for us. But when I say that, we don't have a script. So we want to make sure we follow a plan, but we don't memorize statements to say to families. We want to just make sure that we hit one portion of the conversation before we move on to the next. So we always make sure we really plan for a family conversation. Again, being present with those families and expressing high accurate empathy, really so that the family can feel heard and understood. We're doing those things prior to assessing for their understanding. So one of the things that we really need to do is ask the family, tell me what you've heard. What have you been told by the providers or by the team here at the hospital? Because we want them to be able to say, this is, we believe that he's brain dead, or brain death testing is happening. We want to be able to hear that before we mention donation, because if a family is still holding on to hope and still believes that there's more that they can do to help their loved one, that information for donation needs to wait till later. So once we get a feeling that they understand that this is an end of life situation, or they've made decisions to move to comfort care, then we can have a conversation about donation. And then we transition to that topic. So we share with them, hopefully, the things that we've learned about their loved one in that conversation prior. But we transition by saying, you have shared with me that your loved one would help anyone at any time. And this is another way that they could help others at the end of their life through the gift of organ donation. So sharing with them that this is another way that they could be remembered or they could help at the end of their life. And then we're going to support the family throughout. So usually I share the information about donation, and then I sit down and I say, this has been a lot, but how can I support you next? Do you have questions for me about what this looks like for your family and for your loved one? Or would you like me to walk you through what the next few days will look like? So our work is really to bring our expertise with the families and really help them feel supported and an integral part of this process. So one of the big parts of that was really planning for the conversation. So really thinking about what does that look like? So of course we're going to be talking, as a family support staff member, I'm going to be reaching out to my clinical team and making sure that we have a really good plan. We make sure that we know this person has donation potential, but we're also going to speak with the bedside nurse, the physician, but then we really like to reach out to ancillary staff as possible. So conversation that families have with chaplains are often very different than they have with the nursing staff, or conversations they have with social work, or if we're at a hospital that has child life. Those conversations are very different. Sometimes they share things in a different way. So we really want to make sure we're gathering all that information possible if those people are on site. I like to always ask the provider, what have you told the family? I always use this example, but I was on a case several years ago, and it was a young, he must have been young 20s. He was a legal next of kin for his mom. He was the only person there. And I was really trying my best to connect with him so that he could really make a good decision about donation. And I couldn't, he was just really distraught and pretty removed from the situation. And so I said, I've been speaking with your mom's nurse, and she shared with me that you've made the decision to move to comfort care. And he looked at me kind of like, well, yeah, lady, I want my mom to be comfortable. So his mom being comfortable, not in pain, is not the same as moving to comfort care. So I simply just said, it sounds like you want to spend some more time with your mom, and you need to have some more conversations with your team at the hospital. And I backed out of that conversation because, as you know, comfort care is very different than her being comfortable, right? Not in pain. So that's just, I always like to say, make sure those two things add up. Assessing the family for donation, really thinking about readiness, right? What things make us believe that the family's ready to talk about donation? And those were all those things, the things they were doing, the things they were saying, those types of things. I think about length of stay in just the sense that a conversation with a patient that's in the ER where they're not going to be admitted unless a family wants donation. They've been given great prognosis right there in the ER, versus a family that's been at the bedside 3 or 4 days or more. It's a very different, the families are in a different place. So I just for me, it's just food for thought. I still want to do all the things, connect with the family, help them feel heard and understood. I still want to do those things, but in my mind, I'm just thinking that there's a little bit of a difference there. Circumstances around the death, as you know, some circumstances have a stigma, right? If a person dies by suicide, if it's an overdose, those hit families a little bit differently. So I just like to think about that and just have that thought, and really just we're meeting each family where they're at, but I just like to have a consideration of that before I go into the conversation. If there's any mention of donation, I just usually think about that, and I'll go in and I'll still do my full conversation. One of my old coworkers, she was at Harborview, and the nurse came out and said, hey, this family would like to speak to you about donation. And she went in and had a conversation with them and kind of connected. And she said, yeah, well, I was here to talk to you. I heard that you guys have mentioned donation. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And the mom of this patient was like, yeah, he always wanted to donate his hair to Locks of Love. very different than organ donation. So just thinking about it, making sure we're very intentional about organ donation, making sure we don't jump to the conclusion that it's something that it's not. And then thinking about timing, right? Timing and location are big things. So we don't want to have a conversation if a lot of families coming in to say goodbye, or if there's a procedure planned, right? Or if it's just not the right time for the family. So we really want to do our best to find a quiet location. I know it's really difficult in hospitals to find a quiet location, sometimes an empty patient room, sometimes if we could block off a waiting room, whatever it happens to be, but we really do take a lot of thought into where to have that conversation. We really want to make sure we also are talking to the surrogate decision maker, because if we go in and speak to a person who is not the legal next of kin and they say no to donation, we still have to circle around and find that person that actually is the decision maker and have that conversation. So it's important for us to always start with that decision maker. And then once we gather all this information, we have, just so you know, we have a really good conversation with our family support AOC. We have a group of leaders that are on every day, 24/7. And so our staff on site gathers all this information and they call one of us and say, we had this conversation, this is the information we've gathered, and we want to make sure that we're not missing anything. Do you have any suggestions? And so we really talk through all that information so that we can a lot of the purpose of that huddle is to get our staff person in the right place also so that they can have the best conversation possible. I think that's it.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nettie, for joining us today and providing all of that information. I know this seems like a whole fire hose of information for a lot of folks, but especially if you guys have more questions about donor preparedness and timely family conversations and what that really means for your hospital specifically, because we want to be sure this is tailored to what works for you guys. I urge you guys to reach out to your HD representative to at least start looking into those programs and just seeing how we can help to support what you currently have going on. We don't want to overdo it, but we just want to be here as like kind of like the perfect cherry to the cupcake, if you will. So we're just here to help. So we're going to talk about next steps. So after hearing all that you have this afternoon, where do we go from here? So let's talk about planning for 2024. And at the core of our work, of course, is collaboration and communication. We can't do any of this without you guys. And on the hospital side, again, we're hoping between now and even between next year that you guys start to considering the following, if you haven't already, looking into your internal systems, asking questions. What's the current state to your program? Do you have any checklists that you'd like to implement today? If donor case activity were to happen today, or if it were to happen, of course, as it always does, on a Friday night at 6 p.m. when no one knows anything, where would you guys need support today? Second, of course, we always say designate that in the wait site champion. So identifying that one person in your organization who will be that champion. It's helpful to identify this point of contact so that they can regularly attend any and all in the wait work that we have in the future, and also share learnings with team members. Next, of course, and always keep making those timely referrals and maintaining that donation potential. I could come to you guys with that regulatory head as always, but you guys know what to do out there. A lot of you guys are really used to making those timely vented referrals, but really it's about maintaining the donation potential. Really, we want to be sure that no opportunity is missed and that people in our community who are waiting for those life-saving organs can have their lives saved. So you guys are our eyes, our ears to let us know that things are happening. Of course, while you're assessing your program, LifeCenter, we're always here to help you guys. We have a constant commitment to you all. We have OPO staff that are willing, ready, and able to partner with you all 24/7 to continue to strengthening your donation program. We offer ongoing education for hospital staff. We offer CEUs. Again, identifying and collaborating on opportunities for improving your donation process. If there's something we don't know, give us feedback. We're always here to make it bigger and better. We'll look at policy procedure development and also make sure that your hospital has that regulatory compliance. Again, just the bottom line is always just you can reach out to us at any time for support should you need that. So as we kind of wrap up our forum today, I know we have poll questions, so you guys are going to just have to pretend like those didn't happen at all. So just erase it from your mind. But as we erase it, or as we close it up today, we want to thank you for your attendance, but we really want your feedback. So if you could take a moment to scan the QR code on the screen, that will help to provide some really great feedback to us. Your input is extremely important to us, and we strive to improve and tailor all of our future forums in 2024, again, to best serve your guys' needs. And we don't know that until you tell us what's happening. So we really appreciate you all taking that moment to provide that valuable feedback. And I guess kind of with that, I guess we're getting close to ending here our forum. If you haven't taken a picture of that, but it's just really great to have had, especially a recipient to join us today to really give that voice about how transformative donation is. I know oftentimes we don't get a really chance to hear from that side. Maybe we might hear from families, but to hear from a recipient from himself about how it's changed his life. I mean, this guy's out here chopping wood. He never did that before. I mean, that is just speaks to the power of what donation can really bring to not just one individual, but to families, to communities. It's just donation touches is all. I can stand on my soapbox forever and talk about it, but donation is really cool, but we can't do it without you guys. If I could have the next, yeah, sorry.
Thanks, Charlotte. No, I just wanted to say, so I just wanted to say that we did capture all the responses to that earlier poll that we had. And we'll be sharing that. I know we're almost at time here, but I will share that with everybody as a follow-up, as well as the recording of this meeting, in case you want to watch it again. And we'll have the right answers in there too, in case you guys were curious about that.
Yes. So if I can have the next slide, I think this is our end slide. Yeah. So again, we thank you all for joining us today. We thank you all for your support to help continuing to save lives through organ donation. I know it may not happen often, but it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So again, if you guys need further, if you have any further questions, need further assistance, do not hesitate to reach out to your HD representative. And we, of course, extend our appreciation to Patrick for being here today to sharing his story of inspiration. We're thankful again to Santok, Kara, Nettie, and of course the In the Wait Forum Committee for all of your guys' contributions today. And thank you again all for helping us to save lives through donation. Have a great day and a safe holiday season, and take care. Thank you.